Good morning and welcome back to the VIP seat. Today is October 28th. I'm coming at you today from Haifa, Israel, so I'm a little bit on a different time zone. As you can see, the sun is setting where I am, but Preston is in Tennessee as usual.
It is rainy. We've got some. Unfortunately, I think we've already got starts of the hurricane. I don't know. It's supposed to rain all day, so it's much prettier there than it is here.
Yeah, this is a beautiful place. So I'm part investor in a helicopter operation over here. So enjoying the weather and checking out some helicopters and doing our thing.
Jessie is our resident helicopter gal, so go to her for all of your helicopter needs. Speaking of helicopters, there is yet another what appears to be an eVTOL operator that has pulled out of the game. So Textron has officially disbanded the dedicated division for their Aviation brand. And so this included Pipistrel, it included their eVTOL, it included their defense electric stuff. And so instead of those being an independent division inside of Textron, is now going to roll up into their, fossil fuel cousins, if you will. So no longer, making a huge push. I don't know if that is, political or if I don't know. But they're no longer a dedicated reporting function inside of Textron.
Yeah, and that's a big distinction because when I read these stories, especially if you just read the headline, a lot of people were making it out to be like Pipistrel and the electric aviation division was being canceled altogether. That's the way I interpreted a lot of these articles. But Preston, actually did the deep dive and read the articles themselves. And it's just a reporting thing. Like, we don't really know, is Textron totally spinning off its electric stuff or it's going to keep doing it? It's not really clear at this point.
Yeah, it's the interesting part is there's a lot of aviation media outlets that are out there, okay? Um, Online mostly, right? And they're aviation specific, right? So they're very technical, they're very thorough, they're very in depth. They typically have a very pilot first or, business aviation first lens in which they report through. And I'm just going to read a couple of the ways that this was ripped as a headline, and frankly, some of these are a little irresponsible. Um, Textron to eliminate e-aviation unit, realign electric aircraft programs. That kind of reads a little bit like they're shutting it down.
Right.
Textron pulling plug on e-aviation division. Textron to fold e-aviation segment into broader operations. That one is actually accurate of what it is. So when you read headlines, especially in aviation, be sure that you read a little bit further into it, because if you read the pulls of the plug article, you think immediately that they're selling Pipistrel. There's no more e-aviation. There's no more electric aviation at Textron whatsoever. Just not the case.
Yeah. I mean, I think it does make sense in the broader sense of a lot of people are kind of rolling back a lot of these sustainability, electric, programs that were really, really popular under the last administration, and this administration are not so much. So I get, the headlines and people thinking, okay, maybe it's closing up altogether, but, we just don't know right now. I'm sure that Pipistrel is still operating inside, and we'll have to wait till the next press releases on achievements to see where we're heading.
Yeah, so the Nexus eVTOL was Textron's attempt at eVTOL. And if you know anything about Textron engineering culture, eVTOL doesn't really fit. They're more of an iterative approach than like a ground up, innovation approach. And so, frankly, I had forgotten they even had an eVTOL to begin with, because they're so far behind anybody else who's sort of developing in this space.
Yeah.
And so I actually forgot it was called the Nexus eVTOL.
And originally that was under the Bell program first, which I thought actually made a ton of sense because helicopters, eVTOLs, both are vertical lift, similar kinds of right. But then somehow, I think a couple of years ago, it got shifted over into the e-aviation division at Textron. Who knows? Maybe it'll end up back at Bell this time.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense to be in the helicopter group. That's one thing Robinson Helicopter has really figured out is like, if we're going to do anything vertical lift, it's going to be in the helicopter company because
Right.
they have a lot of experience figuring out how to make things go vertically. I mean, it just kind of makes sense. And it's
Yeah.
also like why Heli Expo is now Verticon. So
Right.
it's no longer just about helicopters, it's also eVTOLs. So it's
Yeah.
now Verticon. And yeah, so that's interesting. Well, um, congratulations to Textron on making a very getting a lot of headlines for not a lot of activity. Fantastic job. You made it on the lead story on the VIP seat. So congratulations. Your PR team deserves a raise.
Well, and also too, they got a new CEO this week, so that was the big news. I think Scott Donnelly was the previous CEO. He'd been there for 18 years. He's still staying on as chairman, but now I don't even have the name in front of me. But an internal candidate is taking over as CEO in January.
It is going to be Lisa Atherton,
Yes, exactly.
named
Thank you.
next president and CEO of Textron.
Yeah.
Another award goes out to Textron in that the fact that there's so many CEOs inside of Textron that it's like she's now the CEO of Textron, but previously she was the CEO of Bell. And like, who's it? Ron Draper is the guy in business aviation. That's like the one that's relatively relevant to us.
Yeah.
Um, so it's like, yeah, it's president and CEO of Textron Aviation, but Ron's not like global. You know what I'm saying? It's like I can't. There's so many CEOs. It's like I don't know.
There's a lot
So
going on in those corporations, and I mean they, because they've put together. I mean they've got golf cart segments, they've got aviation segments. It's a large business in many ways.
yeah, oh that's right. Because Textron Inc. So there's Textron Aviation, but I
Hmm.
wonder if that does Bell report into Textron Aviation? Does she just skip Ron
I
Draper? I don't know. This is
I
interesting.
don't know. Anyone from Textron
Yeah,
is able to come on here and correct the record for us and tell us what the structure looks like. You're welcome to the VIP
they're
seat.
publicly traded, so it's got to be public information. But
Yeah.
I don't understand it. It's kind of like explaining like a big family tree. Don't really understand it. So, well, this takes us to everybody's favorite segment, which is Mile High Madness. This is where Jessie and I scour the internet and find some of the most interesting business and private aviation snippets, tidbits on the internet, typically social media. So, Jessie, we're gonna pull yours up here first. This is
Awesome.
this is gorgeous. I love this guy.
Yeah, so I'm sure everyone has seen those like chocolate makers and cake makers on the internet where it's just like unbelievable what they produce. But for those who are not watching the video version of this on YouTube, this is a chocolatier. I can't remember which one it is, but he's amazing. And he builds an engine turbine in this video, and it is absolutely glorious. And I think it's the coolest thing I've ever seen. And I would totally order one of these for an event if I was an airline or someone involved in the engine business.
Yeah, this is absolute. I mean, this is gorgeous. The way that he uses chocolate to make structural stuff, like he only uses chocolate. There's no rods,
And the
no
turbine moves,
anything.
the fans move. It's
That's
amazing.
crazy. And now
So
he's
cool.
making the back end of the engine and it's
Uh huh.
accurate.
Uh
It's
huh.
shiny. Oh, he's making cotton
Yeah.
candy for clouds. Oh,
Well,
he's
he does
making
these little
clouds up
clouds
above.
that are around the engine. Yep. Oh, and then that's like the symbol. They got this airline. It's Emirates or Qatari or something. They got some award that he put in front of
Skytrax.
it.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think it's
Look at
probably
that.
just, I mean, that's very impressive. So I've seen
Very.
this guy on, he's on a baking show somewhere. Amari Guchon. But
He's
he does
amazing.
all of these incredible like drawings basically of or you know these sculptures that are absolutely breathtakingly beautiful. So that's very cool. We'll link it in the newsletter for those that read it. If you don't, you should subscribe at thevipseat.com. We'll be sure to link that Instagram video in there for you. So mine is not one post, but it's an entire account. And um, to put into perspective, a friend of mine helped this guy buy a couple of aircraft, and they have created this Instagram page for their X Plus Lux, which I think is a made up name, and Super Sovereign, which I also think is a made up name. I think that these are one of one. The Citation 10 Plus Lux. So basically, it's a owner. So it's operated by Thrive. If you can't tell by the paint scheme, it is dead giveaway. This is a Thrive aircraft, and they have become. This is an owner that has basically become an influencer for their own aircraft that's managed by Thrive. And this is my favorite part. This is above. This is above the in the inside of the engines. You can only see it if you're looking from above. It says Big Dog on it on the inside. This is on the
Oh my
Powerbird
gosh.
1, which is the Super Sovereign. And then let me see if I can find this. The top of the Citation 10 is even better because it says Boss Bitch on the top. And
Does it
that's
really?
it really does. I'm trying to find a
I
picture.
love this. Like an
But
owner
this is
actually
like,
loving what they're doing and sharing it with the world and being an influencer. That's awesome. That's really cool.
yeah, exactly. And I actually, I went on and gave a shout out to them on on the TBPN podcast, and so they showed up and they posted that. So this is an owner that's just obsessed with their aircrafts, like their two
As you should be.
airplanes that they have with. So they have this like, oh, and they also have a CJ3 Plus, I guess, that they're getting. So I really wish that I could find the top of the 10, but yeah, it's
That's
it's
cool.
it's operated by Thrive. So if you're a charter broker out there, just know, oh, they also, if you book a trip, so Caden Green has been booking a lot of trips on their plane, so they keep shouting him out on their Instagram. I'm like, all right, that's cool. Like, this is unique. This is
Mhm.
an owner that's a unique approach. I like it. So wanted to give
Yeah, I love that.
a shout out to X Plus Lux on Instagram,
AKA Big Dog.
aka Boss Bitch. Um,
That's amazing.
which is which
Well,
is
actually,
hysterical.
that's a perfect segue to our next story.
It really
Christy,
is.
so Christy Gnomes, who some and articles have called her Ice Barbie. Poor Christy, she's really getting beat up out there these days. But she's getting in trouble with the Democrats because of a 172 to 200 million dollar private jet shopping spree. So she has purchased. Well, she approved a contract for two brand new Gulfstream G700s. She said the funds were already appropriated, but obviously, in the wake of the shutdown and the ICE situation, creating a little bit of bumps in the political party system.
Yeah, they under a little bit of fire because of the lockdowns. I am trying to figure out how you spend $200 million on two G700s. Like, are you putting how much like finishing are you doing? Because I think even if you put like the bidet, which is hilariously expensive, by the way, um, on the G700, that only adds like a couple $100,000 for a bidet. So it's like that's adding the bidet, the like soundproofing, probably taking it to a completions group somewhere to like
Maybe
add other stuff.
they're including like the engine programs or service agreements or something as like a contract total. I wonder.
Yeah. Okay, that would
Yeah.
be more. Yeah, that would make more sense. I saw the headline number and I'm like, I, I'm doing the math and like that the math doesn't make sense to
The
me.
math don't math.
The math don't math. But yeah, Ice Barbie is she's getting a little bit of slack on this,
Yeah.
or because she says that they have 25-year-old aircraft. So I'm going to go ahead and assume that they're flying G4 SPs. Is probably, I mean, they're staying in the Gulfstream family.
Mhm.
If you're going to be in the U.S. government, you probably are not flying Canadian products, so you're
Right.
probably flying on G4s, G4 SPs, and they're basically saying, "Hey, this is for your personal use and your benefit and people closest to you." Um, while that's probably true, she's not going to be there forever. At
Right.
some point, there's going to be a turnover in the government, and somebody else is going to be using it. So I was watching an interesting TikTok last night, actually, about basically it was this really old guy historian talking about why government shut down and what happens. And basically is that the whole reason that the party not in power shuts down the government is so that they can then point at the party in power and say, oh, look at all the things that you're doing, and you won't give us what we want in the budget, so therefore you should
Mhm.
give us what we want in the budget. I think that this seems a little bit like that, where it's something that needs to happen. They need to get the best aircraft in,
Mhm.
in production. The G700 gets them to anywhere they need to go. I mean, we're talking about the Department of Homeland Security. We're
Right.
not talking about like the FDA, right? Or
Right.
someone who doesn't really need to be able to get somewhere fast, safely, efficiently, a long way away. Like, I think this is, I don't know. I'm fine with
Yeah.
this, and I'm very anti-tax.
No, totally. I mean, with this, these are normal procurements, normal operations of these different departments. But because it's Ice Barbie, now I can't like get that out of my head. Like that's just like what in my head she is. Um, because it's her, and because of all the politics around it, it's like a really, really good tool. And this happens all the time. Whether it's billionaires flying on something, or Taylor Swift, or somebody else. Like anytime someone wants to throw shade, they go after the private jet use because it's just an easy target, even though people are using it as a tool. And cost benefit analysis always comes out in the positive. It just, that's what people like to do, pick on the private jets. So, but people like that influencer are just saying, hey, no, this is a tool, this is what I use, and I like it, I enjoy it, and you can go pound sand because I enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, Ice Barbie probably cannot get away with doing that, but I don't
Yeah,
know. We'll see.
we'll see how it
It's
goes.
also, I think that basically the other argument was, there's two other arguments in the article. One is that it's coming from the Coast Guard, and the Coast Guard's not getting paid right now. I think that that's probably just it came out of this budget because that makes the most sense because the Coast Guard's going to operate it.
Right.
The other one says Democrats are basically saying, hey, that could pay for a lot of TSA employees' salaries. And it's like, you know what else could? Pass the budget. Like, it's like, we can solve this
We
either
can
way.
solve problems, but we won't get too political here. I know that we probably have half of our listeners going, "Hey," of course, the other
Yeah,
half are mad about Ice Barbie as well. So who knows? We'll just make everybody mad
exactly.
today.
We've been talking, we've talked about Textron, we've talked about Gulfstream, and now it's time to transition to Sikorsky, which this is probably Jessie's favorite story of the week. So I'm going to let her go ahead and do the read in.
It's probably my favorite story of the month, at least. So this is more of like a military and defense thing, and it's a helicopter thing. So sorry to all you fixed wing business jet people out there, but we're covering helicopters today. So Sikorsky has unveiled its U-Hawk, which is a modified Black Hawk autonomous aircraft. They don't even have pilots. They have what Sikorsky is calling operators, which is people in the field with essentially some kind of iPad of sorts operating the machine. It can load anti-drone missiles. It can load people if you need it to. It's basically, I think what all the eVTOL companies were trying to do, but in the form of a Black Hawk with even more fuel capacity. I mean, this thing, the Black Hawk's already a beast, and they added way more to it, and now there's not even a crew that's going to fly it. I think it's awesome. I think it's the way of the future. I've always thought helicopters were going to be kind of the first real platform to go autonomous in like the real eVTOL way. So this is cool. I just think it's amazing.
Yeah, the funny part about eVTOL is that it's this promise of these clean sheet designs, and we're going to revolutionize how air moves over like the arms that are sticking out, the propellers moving up, and we're all sitting here going, well, if you just make it gas powered, you can get the autonomous part probably taken care of pretty quick.
Right.
Uh, the problem is like trying to figure out the battery thing. Plus, it's going to fly itself, and now you kind of have like way too many complex variables. And so, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. I think that the thing that concerns me about this is um, there's been a lot of studies on the people in the basement that are shooting the drones that kind of take out a large group of people. And because of kind of the human element, it detaches you from a lot of that. Um, it detaches you from a lot of the reality of what it is that you're doing. And
Mhm.
so I hope that this is used as a platform for just moving stuff, people, cargo, and not a giant Black Hawk with no people in it mowing down, a group of whoever, right? I
Right.
think that's where it starts getting really sketchy. I will say too, um, the fact that Silicon Valley really thought that they were going to beat out the military in a
Right.
technology revolution, like
No
I
way.
can name literally everything: the iPhone, GPS, LED lighting. It's like you go down the list, and the whole reason that we have it as civilians is because the military figured it out first.
Yeah.
And cute for Silicon Valley thinking that you're going to beat the government, but I look, the government beat you to this, and no one knew about it until like right now. So
Yeah.
that's the best
Yeah.
part.
Well, I think, what's really pushed this forward. So they've been developing it they developed it over 10 months, which is a really, really short period of time, obviously. But I think what's happened in the last 2 years, a lot of drone warfare. We've seen Ukraine here in the Middle East. There's, a lot of asymmetrical warfare that's been waged against different parties. And I think this platform is specifically built for that. So the operator is going to be in the field. I mean, these are not people like sitting in a basement in DC. These are people that are actually out on the field operating the helicopter. And I think the key is, to shoot down drones that are traditionally very hard to target, or you send, fighter jets that cost gosh knows how much money up in the air, or anti missile systems. This is a lot less expensive, and if you can actually send that thing up on the field and take down the drones that are coming at you, I think that's one of the key capabilities of this, especially given the context of the last couple of years. I would think that that's the main goal. And then just moving people, 25% more cargo capacity in this thing. Yeah, it can carry the HIMARS rocket pods, which is why, I think that's one of the things. It can also deploy drone swarms. I think more and more, and this is a good thing, we're moving into a space where we're not trying to take down people. We're going to be trying to take down each other's drones. And I think that's a positive progression for the world overall, than, people being in these things.
Yeah. I just wonder, I mean, at a certain point, it's a little dystopian. The fact that like our robots are fighting your robots,
Mm-hmm.
and as long as my robots beat your robots won't come get me, and it's like that kind of just it spirals for
Crazy.
me.
Yeah.
But you always look to me for the tinfoil hat stuff. So uh, yeah, that's kind of my fear.
Yeah.
I think we should probably name this episode like OEM Spotlight, because all we're talking about is OEM stuff, but
Yeah.
we're moving back into the Textron world. Um, Hawker owners are potentially facing a system-wide grounding because of their cockpit voice data recorder. So Duncan has basically come out and said, "Hey, we're trying to get this STC and a little bit of kind of modification because the FDR that's currently in the Hawker 750, 800 XP, 850 XP, 9 and 900 XP that have factory FDRs are no longer supported. Like there is a piece in the FDR that can break, and your FDR is now down forever." And so I read this article. It's in AIN. We'll link it in the newsletter. But basically, Duncan is soliciting owners saying, "Hey, we want to try this with you." Specifically, Mexico has already said basically that factory FDR is the only one that works, and we're not going to take any sort of replacements. And so hawkers fly in and out of Mexico a lot. Like there's a lot
Yeah.
of hawkers in Mexico. There's a lot of hawker operators, hawker and Lears, right, that fly in and out of the US into Mexico. So this could be a pretty big deal.
Hmm.
But the 2001 STC, basically the components are obsolete. There's no parts, there's no repairs. And the Mexican mandate has said that as of 2020, basically they're going to start enforcing that they have functional FDRs. And so Duncan has come up with the new STC for the Bendix King Aero Quarter 100 FDR. And they're basically calling on owners to say, "Hey, we want to go ahead and get this started so that we don't have a massive grounding of the entire fleet."
Yeah. And I was curious because, not all aircraft require an FDR, but I think it's not just the FDR. I was looking at this, it's, if I can say this word correctly, accelerometers.
Accelerometer.
potentiometers. There's other pieces of this beyond just the FDR that's affecting it. So, I think this is one of the dangers. You fly these older aircraft, you start to run into. There's things that you just don't expect down the road. Looks like Duncan's trying to come up with a solution, but this is what makes aging aircraft difficult to operate and to fly.
Yeah, I just want to know, like, this has been around for a while. Why
Mm-hmm.
has this taken so long to kind of come to fruition? I mean, good for Duncan for doing
Yeah,
it and trying to push it forward. And I'm glad that they are, but like why has there not been a lot of others that have been trying to do this? Like what's the deal here? There's still a
yeah,
lot of these aircraft flying and they fly, you have FDRs that are required in all 135 operations.
right.
So this is going to be kind of a compounding issue. You already have like the Hawker windshield problem, which is a
Mm-hmm.
known thing that basically I knew of an aircraft that sold, and it sold for more money because they had a spare windshield in the hangar and that went with the aircraft. And it was basically like,
Mm-hmm.
but it was like probably 4 times the amount that the windshield cost is what the
Yep.
aircraft traded for above. And so I think that it, it's going to make the Hawker incredibly non-desirable if
Yeah.
they don't get this solved. And frankly, I don't think Textron cares.
They've got latitudes and longitudes to sell you. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
way it goes. I don't know. It's one of many issues. And I was just trying to think to myself, was there, and maybe this is a dumb question, was there any major fleet operator? Because I feel like that's when NetJets, FlexJet are operating a fleet of aircraft, these things get solved a lot sooner because they are much more longer term thinking operators. They've got a fleet that they need to plan for 10 to 20 years. So sometimes they might be pushing SCCs or pushing the OEMs to do certain things. I can't think of very large operators right now with this type of aircraft at this point, and a lot of them.
I I don't
Maybe
know
that's
of any large operator that operates a lot, but I
true.
think that there's a lot in operation across a very small, like
Right. Right.
groups of 8 and 10 aircraft. I mean, I'm thinking Thrive doesn't have any, Nextant is not really even a thing anymore. You would think that that would solve it, right?
Well,
And
but
if I
that came
remember
out of
right,
FlexJet. That was FlexJet who created the
right,
next gen because they had issues and
right.
they, kind of did this big conversion project. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know of any. There's a couple of operators out of South Florida that fly like 8 or 10 of them, but that's not a
Yeah.
lot. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's not a lot, right?
Well, and that's
And
but I
so,
think that's the onus behind, you're like, why did this take so long? It's like, because until they start getting grounded, like people don't really like perk up and go, oh, we need to plan for this in like 10 years from now. Unfortunately, that's the way this industry kind of works sometimes.
yeah, no, I agree. It's a bummer for all the Hawker owners out there, especially like the super mid Hawker owners.
Yeah.
And it's a real bummer if you own one now and you're trying to dump it. You should have dumped it like a year ago before
Yeah.
this all started. And I think that it's still not financial advice, and I'm not a broker, but they're really hard to finance. I mean, I'll tell you this: like
Yeah.
you bring a Hawker 800 XP, doesn't matter what year it is, and it's hey, look, we know all of the issues that come with this, and we think that you're not thinking about this
Hmm.
enough, and so we're not going to finance it for you. So hopefully they get that solved. Although I'm not super hopeful, to be honest, that Textron really is going to care. And
Well,
same problem with Lear's. Lear's having the same problem. Bombardier doesn't really care. And Ken Rickey talked about this at CJI last year, and I think that it's something that we really need to continue to talk about is the uh, non OEM part business that
hmm
is huge in commercial that has driven a whole lot of profitability for these operators and
yes.
good things for the owners. We've got to figure that out. And if we don't, and frankly, I don't think NBAA is going to start pushing for it because that kind of negatively impacts their relationship with the OEM. But there is somebody, and Gamma's not going to push for it either because it's all the manufacturers, but
Hmm.
there needs to be someone who starts pushing and saying, and maybe it's Ken Rickey and maybe it's all the fractional operators get together and say, look, we need these, and there's a word for it. It's not RMA parts, but it's something like that, where
Oh,
basically
PMA,
they're
I think.
PMA parts. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Um, we need PMA parts where it's non-OEM manufactured parts that will drive down. It's part of the reason why it's actually cheaper to fly a BBJ than it is to fly a G650, which is
Yeah,
crazy because, brakes are like 1/10 of the cost. So I think that somebody needs to start pushing for this, or
right.
else the entire Hawker fleet is going to be obsolete in not very many years. The entire Lear fleet is going to be obsolete in not very many years. And they're still good aircraft. I mean, they're still
Yeah.
flying. They're still doing well.
Well, that's the thing. I'm trying not to get like too in the weeds on this, but it's such a fascinating topic, and now we're going there anyway. But even like our engine programs, a lot of our engine programs, our time before overhauls are like 5,000 hours or 10,000 hours. That is not the case in commercial aviation. Engines are on condition with the airlines, which means they just keep flying those things and they keep inspecting them until they can no longer, they have to be overhauled. And I think there's so many, like you said, value drivers that we miss out on in private aviation because we just don't have the scale. The people like the flex jets and the net jets do, and they do get their engines. I don't think they get them on in condition, but they push them, much higher TBOs than other people do.
They push them, but Ken Rickey and Honeywell are currently in a nasty lawsuit. So,
Yeah, which we covered the other
they
week.
get
Yep.
it. They get it, but also not, totally get it. So,
Right, right.
yeah, the other crazy thing, and this is something that I did not understand. I'm putting together a deal on kind of private commercial conversion stuff, and engine programs on commercial are by cycle. So like
Hmm.
it's like $500 to turn it on, and that's it, which
Hmm.
is crazy. I mean, you think about how much a light jet program's like $500 an hour per engine,
Hmm.
and on commercial airliners, it's $500 to turn it on, and that's it. And it covers the rest of your program. So I think that there is like, we could probably do an entire deep dive and bring on a couple of panel people that can argue with each other. But
Yeah.
uh, there's a lot to learn from commercial aviation, and hopefully all of the Hawker operators and owners and Lear owners and maybe some fractionals will get together and say, hey, we should try and fix this. But
Right.
until then, there might be an entire fleet of aircraft, an entire manufacturer of aircraft grounded.
Yeah. But speaking of our last manufacturing story of the day, more about new aircraft rather than used. Embraer, no surprise, has hit an all-time high of $31.3 billion in backlog. They have sold 65% more business jets year over year. And I think this comes at a shock to no one, but they're absolutely crushing it as usual.
Yeah, they delivered their 2000th business jet during the third quarter, which is exciting. They just announced a new MRO, which is at Alliance Airport, which, by the way, last week I was recording at Alliance Airport. We've been having some technical issues, so we will get that solved, and you will get your MBAA Mega Show if you're on
Yes.
Spotify and iTunes. But I couldn't say it because I was not sure if it was secretive. But I'm sitting there recording the podcast, and I'm looking out the window watching the entire Embraer executive team walk by, and I was like, "Oh, something's happening." I was trying to grab somebody and be like, "Hey, come break the news live on the VIP seat," but
Right.
we're not there yet. Joe, if you're listening, you should nudge nudge. But yeah, but Embraer has hit some pretty big milestones, and I think that the backlog conversation, people like to kind of people like to poo poo backlogs and basically say like it doesn't matter. I think that my opinion is the composition of your backlog is what matters more than the number of your backlog. So
Mhm.
if you are basically just trying to inflate the backlog in order to drive stock price, that's one thing. But if you are actually increasing your backlog with high quality operators, so
Mhm.
on the commercial side, I saw kind of headline names of Velo Aircraft, or Velo Airlines, LATAM Airlines Group, Virgin Australia.
Yeah.
Um, so there's like, there's diversification of geography. There's, 2.7x book to bill ratio over the past year. There's a lot of things to say, hey, look, not only do you have a backlog, but the backlog is healthy.
And I think the backlog used to be different when you could put $200,000 down to buy an aircraft in a year. That's no longer the case. You know, the demand has totally shifted. The way in which people pay deposits and deposit schedules for aircraft is totally different. And I did want to specify too. So the 31.3 billion is for Embraer overall, including commercial. For executive aviation, it was 7.3, which is still like a crazy number. But again, I think these are different conversations today than it used to be. It used to be like, okay, yeah, well, anybody can go like place an order. But these days, I mean, with the wait times, I mean, it's unbelievable how much money you have to put down for a new aircraft today.
Yeah, I was working with somebody on some progress payment. You can finance it for what it's worth, but we were working on a progress payment schedule, and I'm sitting here looking at it, and I'm like, they're gonna have $20 million of yours for like 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a balance sheet exercise. It's making sure that there's not a lot of speculation going on. That said, you can still flip a phenom for way more than you take delivery of it right now. And
Yeah.
that is not super, like, that is not super insider information, but there's a couple stories that I've heard where people are specking the entire thing, right? Walking it all the way through till build. They take delivery, and someone's got a Praetor that delivers next year, but they need something to bridge the gap and they need depreciation. So they're like, yeah, whatever the price is, as long as it's here today.
Right.
So like that type of activity is still happening. So you have to actually put up to speculate, right? You have to put up the full $13 million, $14 million, whatever it is that you're kind of buying at.
Right.
You have to put it all up, but you can still make money, which is pretty
Well,
crazy.
because at the end of the day, you know, if you need that $13 million write off, that's got a lot of value there. And if that means, you know, bumping into next year, you know, losing a little bit on this one just to get another one, it's kind of chump change.
Yeah, exactly. Well, these are problems that we wish we had. And if we had a really big sponsor, we might have it. So if you're interested in sponsoring the VIPC, I did have one person reach out to me. So we may have a sponsor here in the next couple of weeks. But if you would like to sponsor, reach out to us. We are kind of getting towards that, hitting some traction. And the only way that we hit traction is by you sharing with your friends. So hit the share button, send it to somebody. This is a lot of fun for us. We really enjoy doing it. We enjoy growing the show. So hit the share button, like us on iTunes, on Spotify, on YouTube, on Amazon Podcast, on wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. Be sure that you subscribe, leave us a 5-star review. And again, we will read your 5-star review on the show. Subscribe to the newsletter, thevipseat.com. And if you share the newsletter with a friend, if you share it with 2 friends, we will give you a shout out live on the air. So be sure that you do that. And other than that, I am Preston Holland here for my co-host Jessie Naor, live from Israel. Be safe over there, and we will see you all next week.